Vaping versus smoking. Are you a vapor that used vaping to quit smoking? That's good, congratulations. Or are you a smoker that's considering using vaping as a way to get off smoker? It's actually not a bad idea. Whether you're a smoker or a vapor or thinking of going between the two, believe it or not, some people do both. You want to watch this video in its entirety because we're going to go into the whole argument about vaping versus smoking so that we can understand it. So let's do that. So first of all, we have to have an honest conversation. We have to be able to tell the truth about the actual reality of both vaping and smoking. And we need also to be willing to accept what the science says. So with that in mind, let's get right into this vaping versus smoking. Let's start with smoking. The truth is, there's really nothing to say. We know so much about smoking. We have studied it to death over the last 50, 60 years. It is really, really bad for you. It would be really great if you didn't smoke. So there's not really much to say about smoking. It's kind of a done deal. We know it's a really, really bad idea. So let's look at vaping. Because the truth is, vaping advocates, that's not what they're saying about vaping. They're not saying vaping's really bad and we should not do it. They're not saying that at all. In fact, they're saying the opposite. So what are they saying? Well, they're saying things like vaping is 95% safer than smoking, that vape is harmless, that vaping will get you addiction free, that vaping is solving the problem of smoking. And they'll point to two things, and they always point to the same two things. The Public Health of England and the UK Royal Physicians. And in fact, they're going to point to a single statement that says vaping is 95% safer than smoking. So here's the thing. All of these things that I just said to you a minute ago, these are all claims. So we can look at whether they're true or not. But really what we want to do is we just want to simplify this so that we can actually evaluate each claim. So claim number one, is vaping 95% safer than smoking? Claim number two, is vaping a good way to quit smoking? Number three, did the Royal College of Physicians actually say that vaping is 95% safer? And is that what they're actually saying? Are they saying, is vaping safe? That's really what we're getting at here. Did the Royal College of Physicians say that vaping is safe? 4, did Public Health of England also say the same thing, make the same claim? So those are the 4 things. Is vaping 95% safer than smoking? Is vaping a good way to quit smoking? Do the Royal College of Physicians actually think vaping is safe? And did Public Health of England also say the same thing? We can easily answer these questions by looking at what the science actually says. I just have one caveat before we jump in, and that is this. One background thing you have to understand is that vaping is a huge industry. It's a $1 billion industry. Massive. And they put billions of dollars into advertising. They put billions of dollars into funding YouTube channels and people on YouTube to promote vaping as something that is safe. So just keep that in mind. And vaping companies, manufacturers, they're just the tobacco companies. That's who mostly owns vaping companies. So just a backgrounder, but that doesn't mean that the information is incorrect. We just have to look at the information. Okay, so let's jump right into this. The start of the story. When did it all start? 2015. What happened in 2015? Public Health England put out a review. Okay, this is not a scientific study. It is simply a review of the scientific literature. They put out, this is the 2018 version of it, but it came out in 2015. It's 250 pages, over 100,000 words. The vaping advocates will only ever cite one single sentence from this report. A single sentence. You can ask yourself why only one sentence. Well, because the other 100,000 words in here don't say a whole lot of good things about vaping. So we're going to go into that in some detail so you can understand it. So here we are, it's 2015. What happens? We get this position paper comes out because they're trying to come up with a public health policy, and all these newspaper articles get written. So here's one. The Royal College of Physicians says e-cigarettes can prevent almost all harm from cigarettes. That is a serious claim. And where does that claim come from in that article? Like all the other newspaper articles, it comes from that study. So here's the cover of that study. So we can actually look at the report. So this is a report compiled by government bureaucrats who have a job function, and their job function is to get people off cigarettes. One of their actual stated objectives, get people off cigarettes because it's a drain on the healthcare system. Why? because England has universal health care. It costs the taxpayers a whole lot of money if you get sick from smoking. So they want people to get off smoking. But that doesn't mean the information's bad, remember? We have to actually look at what the science says. So let's look at this study that all the vaping advocates go to all the time. So the first thing we have to do is we have to look at, what is this review based on? Well, it's based on, and they say it right in their introduction, 20 scientific studies, 20. They say 12 were funded by manufacturing companies. So there is a lack of independent research. What are they saying? 12 of the 20 studies that they're relying on for this claim of it being 95% safer were funded by vaping companies, by the vaping manufacturer and the vaping lobby and the vaping industry. Now, that being said, does that mean that the information is incorrect? Actually, it doesn't mean the information is incorrect. It doesn't mean that at all. You have to actually go back and read the 20 studies. So I did that for you. I did the work for you. I read all 20. I read every word in this 250-page report. And here's what I can tell you is I can tell you that there is some truth to this claim about it being 95% safer. So let's look at that. So here is right from the conclusion. It says, stating that vaping is at least 95% less harmful than smoking. That's the actual words they use. You notice they use the word stating. Why? Because what are they talking about? What they're really talking about is public policy of promoting vaping as an alternative to smoking. Why? Because the hope is that if they can get people off smoking onto vaping, it will drive their healthcare costs down, which actually is a good thing. And that would be a good thing for you too if you were a smoker, right? So the interests are kind of lining up here. So it does kind of make sense. But what are they really saying? Like, what do they mean by 95% safer? To understand that, you have to read those 20 underlying studies. Here's what they mean by that. What they mean by that is, if you take a whole bunch of smokers, and they did, you give them counseling. They gave them counseling for 16 weeks to try and get them to quit. And then those that did quit, which we know from the studies was 18%. Actually, the average was 11% actually quit. So those 11% of people that actually quit successfully on vaping, which means 89% of them went back to smoking, but the 11% that did quit, they actually had 95% less tar in their lungs. So they looked at one aspect of the relationship between smoking and vaping, the amount of tar. So if you actually go off smoking and you go to vaping, you'll have 95% less tar in your lungs. That's all they mean by it being 95% less harmful. But guess what? That is less harmful. That's a really good thing, because having tar in your lungs is like really, 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 really bad. So this is a good thing. So this is positive. What you need to understand is you have to just understand what they're actually claiming here. That's all they're claiming. They're not claiming that vaping is safe. They're claiming it's safer. They're not saying it's safe. They're saying it's safer. And that's a really, really important distinction. So what happens is the vaping advocates take that extra leap and say, well, no, therefore vaping is safe. No, vaping is not safe. That's not what it says. In fact, read the very next line that no vaping advocate will ever include when they say that vaping is 95% less harmful. The very next line in the very same report. It should be noted that this does not mean e-cigarettes are safe. That's what they're saying. They're saying, yes, it's 95% less harmful because you have 95% less tar, but don't be a fool. This does not mean vaping is safe. That's literally what they're saying, okay? So I want to highlight a few more things from this report for you, and I'll put them on the screen here for you. So here's what they're saying in their key findings. The addictiveness of nicotine depends on the delivery system. As e-cigarettes have evolved, their nicotine delivery has improved. This could mean that their addiction potential has increased. It is not yet clear how addictive e-cigarettes are or could be relative to tobacco cigarettes. So what they're trying to tell you is, look, be careful. Because the vaping companies are finding better ways to get nicotine into your system and more of it, because the more you have, it is an addictive substance. The more likely you are to keep buying their product over and over and over again. And for an industry that is under siege, tobacco, you have vaping instead. But guess who owns vaping companies? Tobacco. It's the same people, okay? So the Public Health England is saying, be warned, vaping is highly addictive. They then go on to say, right here, a couple points down, the long-term impact of nicotine from e-cigarette on lung tissue is not yet known. They are not saying that vaping is not bad on your lungs. So I'm going to give you an example where the vaping advocates take a leap of faith and get themselves into a lot of trouble. The vaping advocates will always say, it is not bad for your lungs at all. It's all a conspiracy theory. Everything's a conspiracy theory with vaping advocates. It's all a conspiracy theory because look at popcorn lung. There is no popcorn lung anymore. That's been debunked. Well, that's a very interesting claim, and let's look at it. It is true that you're not likely to get popcorn lung from vaping now. But let's ask the question why. Well, what happened was, when vaping first came out, they had a chemical in it that was causing popcorn lung, and people were getting popcorn lung. The vaping industry did not change it. In fact, they lobbied to keep that additive in the product. But the governments said, no, we're going to regulate you and you have to take that out. They were forced to take it out. They didn't take it out willingly. They were forced to. And so what they now will say is, well, look, because you don't get popcorn lung from vaping anymore, because that additive isn't in the product anymore, therefore it's good for your lung. It's fine. No, you cannot make that leap. It's still really bad for your lungs. It just doesn't have that additive, but it has other additives that are bad for your lungs. So that is what Public Health England and the UK Royal Physicians are saying. They are saying, and I'll read it to you again, the long-term impact of nicotine from e-cigarettes on lung tissue is not yet known. They don't even understand yet how bad it actually is for your lungs. Okay? Now, just a couple other things I want you to pay attention to here. They also say never smokers in the UK who try e-cigarettes are more likely to have tried smoking. So this is another claim that the vaping industry makes, which is vaping doesn't lead to smoking. Why do they want to make that claim? Well, because they know most people who start vaping are kids. They're teenagers. Why? Because tobacco is marketing to them on purpose. They're making strawberry flavored, bubblegum flavored. They're making flavors that kids like. They're doing everything they can because they know because they are tobacco companies. They know if they can get a kid hooked from 14 to 21, they've got an addict for life, right? They know that. And so they make vaping products with all of these flavors. Why? Because they want to get you hooked. But what they don't want you to know is that, well, you might pick up smoking now, which is what they actually want because that's what they're in the business of. Vaping companies are tobacco companies for the most part. Okay, so this is what the UK College of Physicians is saying and Public Health England. It's right in their policy report. Never smokers in the UK who try e-cigarettes are more likely to have tried smoking. That's what they're saying. So when we look at this, number one is the claim is that vaping is 95% safer than smoking. Well, I think we can kind of say, yeah, it is. That is true. They actually have a point there, right? Because this is about having an open, honest conversation. We just have to acknowledge truth. And so that is true. But there's just a whole lot of caveats with it. You cannot then assume that vaping's good or even a good alternative. But I think we have to give them yes with a whole bunch of caveats. Second claim, which is vaping a effective way to quit smoking? Does it have a high success rate? Well, we actually know because the science has been done. So let's look at it. So I'm going to give you the best study with the highest success rate, okay? Because the average is 11%. But this is from the New England Journal of Medicine in 2019. And it says right here in the abstract, in the background, it says that the 1-year abstinent rate was 18%. So what are they saying? They're saying that if you use vaping to quit smoking, 18% of people will actually quit smoking. But 82% of people will continue smoking and sometimes do both vaping and smoking. So that's what we're saying. So now that we know what the actual success rate of vaping is at quitting smoking, we can put it in the hierarchy of all the other methods from the science. So let's just go through them. Stacking at 80%, hypnotherapy at 60%, drugs at 22%. By the way, if you want more information about stacking in that model, there'll be a link up to it right here. Okay, hypnotherapy at 60%, the drugs, which is Zyban and Chantix at 22%, vaping's best study has it pegged at 18%, behavioral therapy, which is counseling, nicotine replacement therapies, the gum, the patch, they all averaged between 12 and 14%, and placebo's 12%. And then below placebo, things we know that are not very effective, books, apps, cold turkey, and the worst study on vaping ever was 2%. But the reality is, if you look at the 20 studies, it averaged out at 11. So in terms of a quit smoking model, it's kind of right in the middle to get people to quit smoking. But I think that's not really a fair way to look at it, because really think about it. If you quit smoking, you go to vaping, is that better? Yes. But are you quit? Well, you're still addicted. You're still just an addict. So you're not drinking arsenic, you're drinking gasoline now, but you're still addicted, you're still stuck. You're still a victim, you're not free. You are not free of the nicotine. I think this one, I think the effectiveness of vaping is zero, because you're still just an addict, right? Don't you want to be free? Isn't that the point of all of this, to be free from it? You're still just stuck. Is it healthier for you? Yes, but you're still just an addict. So in regards to number 2, is vaping a successful way to quit smoking? No, I don't think it is. I don't think it's just a little bit better for you than smoking. I think it's a terrible way to quit. Okay, so now that's number 2. So let's go on to 3. Number 3, what is the Royal Physicians in the UK actually saying vaping is safe? They're not saying that at all. They're not saying it's safe. In fact, they're saying the exact opposite. They're saying it's not safe. They're just saying they'd rather have you vape than smoke because it will help them bring their costs down on the healthcare system, but you're still going to get sick. It still might kill you, and we don't even know all the ill health effects that you're going to suffer from it. It's still not a good or wise idea. That's what the UK physicians are saying. And what about the Public Health of England? It's exactly the same thing, because the UK physicians are just parodying what Public Health England said in their report. Vaping is better for you and be less costly on the healthcare system if you vape instead of smoking, so we should promote it because it will help bring our costs down. But they then spend 253 pages, everything but that one sentence, saying vaping bad, vaping not good, vaping still a terrible thing, vaping still hard on your lungs, and we still don't know how bad it is. That's what these people are actually saying. But yes, they are promoting it as a safer alternative. They're not promoting it as a safe alternative. And so I really think number 3 and number 4 are really the same answer. So let's just summarize. And by the way, if you disagree with me on any of these points, comment in the video. We love when people disagree with us. We would love to hear your opinion. But let's just summarize those 4 again. Is vaping 95% safer? Yes, with a whole lot of caveats. 2, is it a good model to quit smoking? Not really. Really, you need to quit, right? If you have an addiction, you have a really bad habit, you just need to quit it, okay? Could it be a step in the direction? Sure, but we also know that, well, that very few vapors ever end up quitting. So if you get up smoking to vaping, that's good. But the question then becomes, when are you quitting vaping? When are you getting rid of that addiction, right? That becomes the next question. So I think number 2, it's a no. Number 3 and number 4 are really the same thing. They are not saying that vaping is safer. The Royal College of Physicians and Public Health England are not saying vaping is safe. They're saying it's safer than smoking, but it's not safe. And they go at great length to talk about how unsafe it actually is and how much they don't know. So that's the truth. So use this information, hopefully, to propel you to not do either. Okay, so if you're interested and you want to actually become free of quitting smoking, and become free of vaping for the rest of your life, then please just click on the link in the description I put with a free 15-minute phone consultation with me. I will get you on the right track. Subscribe to this channel. If you're interested in tips, tricks, and hacks on how to quit smoking, quit vaping for the rest of your life, subscribe and make sure you hit the notification button. It simply tells you when I post new content. Also, you can subscribe to my Facebook page and my Instagram and on any of my social media. If you disagree or you have your own experience or you just want to share and let others benefit from that, please comment. We invite all comments. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Blessings to everyone.